LiberalViewer presents.
So, welcome to the December 30th edition of LiberalViewer Monday Media Mixup. Thanks for joining me. I'll be using the 11 best, most newsworthy clips I picked out from the Sunday morning news analysis shows from the big five corporate outlets of ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and Fox News, the so-called corporate media here in the United States, for what should be a really educational, informative, fair use media criticism and political commentary show for you all tonight. You can see my topic is the Republican Party split between business tech bros and native populists. And that was a big story over the weekend, although if you looked at the thumbnail of my video, I've actually kind of updated the topic to tech bro takeover ? Because today the split between the tech bros who are pro immigration for certain types of skilled worker visas called H-1B visas, and then the native populists who are just anti-immigration and America first and all that. There was a big fight between them over the last several days, and then today Donald Trump came out in favor of the tech bros and the H-1B visas, and I think that pretty much shut down a lot of the MAGA dissent, because it is, kind of a cult and they do follow what the leader says, or I guess we'll have to find that out. But that's why I kind of updated the thumbnail from the original title, and I'm going to show you several news summaries that cover it and clips talking about this split in the Republican Party, and it's one of several that may be coming between business and populism, also between neocons, and especially in Congress, and isolationists in the Trump administration. So something to watch for in the upcoming Trump administration, and also to see whether Trump can get done the things that he wants to get done. And that's actually the subject of my political comedy clip. I decided to choose this clip from L.A. Mystal, who was on MSNBC's The Weekend, and he talked about how, I guess this is kind of comedic, that in Trump world, bad can actually be good. And then he ends with a pop culture reference. You can see if you get it, and I'll talk about that after we watch that political comedy clip to start the show off with today over here.
Can we just talk about the fact this was who Donald Trump wanted to run the Department of Justice?
Yeah, this was his first pick for AG. This is his first pick to replace Merrick Garland. And my argument is that he would have been fine. Like, he would have been terrible for all of the reasons that we've already discussed. He's obviously ethically compromised. He would have been terrible, like, for America. But compared to the other people Trump was looking at, Gaetz would have been fine. People have to remember that one of the good things, and I'm using good in a very strained, overly generous way, but one of the good things about Trump's cabinet picks so far is that they are so wholly, universally incompetent and buffoonish. And when you're dealing with Trump, when you're dealing with a wannabe authoritarian, when you're dealing with a person with the kind of ambitions of Donald Trump, having him surrounded by loyal buffoons is actually better than having him surrounded by competent people, right? And so I think that, there are some very dangerous cabinet picks, but the buffoons are not the ones that I'm worried about. And then now is his new attorney general pick, Pam Bondi, former state attorney general in Florida. She's another one who's just, her main kind of quality is loyalty. Her main quality is looking the other way on Trump's crimes in Florida, where she refused to prosecute his charity for crimes that charity allegedly committed, right? So when he surrounds themselves with these kind of loyal sycophants, that's actually the best we can hope for, because the alternative is fully competent. The alternative is the now watch this fully operational battle station, and I'm still hoping that we get the clown car for at least a little while.
Okay,
So the comedic clown car, or I think it's what the Emperor says in Return of the Jedi, for his big surprise to Luke, is now witnessed the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station, which is Elie Mystal. He almost got it right there, but it was in the middle of a whole complex point, so I enjoyed that pop culture reference there, and I think that maybe he's right, that maybe the best we can hope for in terms of especially the first 2 years of the Trump administration as he goes into controlling all three branches of government, the executive branch, the Congress, and the Supreme Court, all on his side. So all we can hope for is the incompetence of the buffoonery, of the loyal buffoons surrounding him, and maybe the splits in the Republican Party, kind of the neocon isolationist split, the tech bro nativist populist split that I'm about to talk about, and some other things that could split the Trump coalition and make it hard, especially with the very tight margins in the House and even in the Senate, might be a problem. And that's the best we can hope for. As Elie Mystal was, I don't know what you think of that clip. You can let me know in the comment section. But now I'm going to move on to the news summaries from longest to shortest. The longest one is actually pretty long. ABC's this week with George Stephanopoulos, hosted by Jon Karl this week. They have this long breaking news story, the South Korean airliner that crashed, and then they go into covering this tech bro nativist split that is my topic in this 7.5 minute news summary. I don't know, do you think it's worth spending this much time on the South Korean airliner crash at the beginning of the news program that probably won't, I don't know, it's probably not even news so much. Well, it was still in the news today, although there was a lot of Jimmy Carter news, of course. But anyway, I'll talk about all that a little more after we watch that news summary together over here.
Good morning. Welcome to This Week. We have breaking news as we come on the air this morning. A plane crash in South Korea has taken the lives of 179 people. That's all but 2 of the people on board as it made a runway crash landing. For the very latest on this tragedy, we turn to ABC News transportation correspondent Gio Benitez. Gio, what do we know about the cause of this crash?
Well, John, this is just an unspeakable tragedy, and there's a lot that we don't know right now. That's the problem. But we know that there were 181 passengers and crew on this plane, and like you said, nearly all of them lost their lives in this. You're seeing the images right there. This is really the only part of the plane that's still recognizable. It's really the tail. And this happened in South Korea because they actually had to land there. There was some sort of distress signal that was sent before the landing, and we know that local transportation officials were saying that there was a warning about a bird strike. But at this point, when you look at this, it's hard to imagine how a bird strike alone could have caused something like this, but we just don't know. And we're not going to show you the full video here because it's really, really disturbing. But basically, this plane, this Boeing 737 from Jeju Air, was actually able to land on its belly without that landing gear deployed. And so the big question is, why did it not have that landing gear deployed? Why did it not slow down when it was landing on its belly? And then why there was this wall? There was this wall at the airport near the runway. When it veered off course, the plane actually hit that wall. That's when it exploded. So there are so many questions about all of this. And the sad part about this, there's so many sad parts about this, but what's really tragic about this is if that wall hadn't been there, they likely would have been able to survive this.
And this was a Boeing 737-800. That is one of the most common airplanes in the world. I believe there are more than 4,000 of them currently in operation. That's about 15% of all commercial passenger planes in the world. What does this mean for the rest of those Boeing 737-800s around the world?
Well, you know, John, I know that a lot of people online, when they're looking at this, they're saying, well, wait a minute, it's a Boeing plane. We saw what happened in January with that door plug on the Alaska Airlines plane. Is this somehow related to being a Boeing problem? At this point, there's no indication of that. This is a 15-year-old plane. And like you said, it is one of the most popular models in the world. So many people fly this plane. And when you look at Jeju Air, right, this is the airline, they actually have an incredibly strong safety record. They only have one incident almost 2 decades ago, and it was a plane that actually went off the runway and 6 people were injured in that, but everyone survived there. In this case, it's very, very different because when it landed, we still don't know why it wasn't able to slow down. Sometimes they have these crush pads at the end of airport runways to slow planes down. We don't know if that was there, but certainly you see how fast it was moving. And then, of course, that wall. And so that's the biggest factor here is that wall there. But no doubt, we want to know about that distress signal. Why did that happen? Why was there a Mayday call? And so that investigation is going to take some time.
Gio Benitez, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Turning back to politics, while many of us were celebrating Christmas and Hanukkah, Elon Musk ignited what the Washington Post is calling a, quote, MAGA civil war. It started with a Christmas Day post by Musk on his X platform saying that the United States needs to quickly let in more foreign workers, specifically highly educated engineers, to work for American tech companies. The number of people who are super talented engineers and super motivated in the U.S. is far too low, Musk declared. Think of this like a pro sports team. If you want your team to win the championship, you need to recruit top talent wherever they may be. On one hand, there was nothing unusual about what Musk was saying. American companies have been complaining for years about how hard it is to get visas for the most highly skilled workers. And in a podcast last summer, Trump himself told tech entrepreneur David Sachs that the U.S. needs to recruit top talent from around the world. And he reiterated his support for H-1B foreign worker visas just yesterday in an interview with the New York Post. Shortly after Christmas, Vivek Ramaswamy chimed in to agree with Musk, saying that American culture is to blame for the shortage of American workers. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, Ramaswamy posted on X. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. But the call for letting in more foreign workers ran smack against the beliefs of some of Trump's most hardcore supporters. They take America first to mean restricting immigration of all kinds. Laura Loomer, who traveled with Trump for a while during the fall campaign, blasted the call for more foreign workers and the influence of Musk and other tech billionaires on Trump, saying, quote, allowing big tech executives into Mar-a-Lago is going to be the death of our country. And there's more. Musk hit back on his pro-Trump critics with a series of profanity-laced posts saying, quote, I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend. That outburst prompted Steve Bannon to hit back at Musk saying, someone please notify Child Protective Services need to do a wellness check on this toddler. Yep, that's Trump's former chief strategist calling Elon Musk a, quote, toddler. If it is a MAGA civil war, the opening salvos may have been fired a few days earlier at the big Turning Point USA event in Arizona that featured speeches by Trump and his biggest MAGA supporters. Check out what his son, Don Jr., had to say in Arizona.
In D.C., it's not just the Democrats that are our foes. It's a vast majority of the Republicans. Call them out. Call their offices. Put on that pressure. Make them feel the pain.
And Bannon was a featured speaker out there, too. He took a shot right at Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Clearly, Johnson's not up to the task, and he's got to go, right? He's got to go. Should Johnson be Speaker of the House? President Trump, these are your people.
By the way, Mike Johnson will stand for re-election as Speaker of the House in just 5 days in an election where he cannot afford to lose more than a single House Republican. In just a few minutes, we're going to talk with a House Republican and a Trump supporter about how these fights will play out before Trump is sworn in again as President of the United States. But we begin with the roundtable.
And I will have a clip of the House Republican talking to Jon Karl about the H-1B visa issue. I told you Trump came out in favor of H-1B visas and in this split between different parts of the Republican Party, and he came out in favor of the need more foreign worker side and not the America first for the workers side. Like Laura Loomer apparently got suspended from Twitter for attacking Elon Musk and the tech bros, and so it was like a real thing. And they talked about Elon Musk, his profanity laced posts on Twitter or X or whatever he's calling it now. There was one that was like "F you in the face" or "fuck you in the face" or whatever. He was they left that part out, and I don't think you get as detailed coverage of the nastiness of the fight of the Republicans in the next clip. Oh, I was also going to mention the Speaker of the House race, Mike Johnson. Trump also came out since these news summaries and said that he endorses Mike Johnson. I don't know if he's actually going to like whip votes for him and make sure he gets all the votes, but that should actually help Mike Johnson on January 3rd become Speaker, and hopefully it will prevent some sort of debacle on January 6th because there is no Speaker of the House. Well, that's actually my next show will be next Monday, January 6th, so we'll find out then. But I did want to juxtapose the coverage of the split in the Republican Party and how nasty it was with the coverage you're going to see from Fox News Sunday. Shannon Bream has Matt Finn covering the Republicans, and then Lucas Tomlinson in the Virgin Islands with Biden. Also starting off with the breaking news, the South Korean plane crash, plus, which, as I said, the previous clip I spent way too, like half that news summary was on the South Korean plane crash, which seems gratuitous, but I guess it's got picture, like video that make people want to watch. Maybe that's why. But it's also in this Fox News Sunday news summary, that breaking news. Then SpaceX, they're sort of pimping for Elon Musk in their breaking news. And finally, what was the third breaking news topic? Benjamin Netanyahu getting surgery. That seemed like a weird thing to throw in before going to Matt Finn and Lucas Tomlinson with the two reports over in this clip.
Hello from Fox News Sunday in Washington on this last Sunday of 2024. We begin with a Fox News alert. South Korea suffering its deadliest passenger plane disaster ever on its soil this morning. We want to warn you, the video you're about to see is disturbing. A Boeing 737-800 jet used by a low-budget airliner crash-landed, veered off the runway, and slammed into a concrete wall, bursting into flames. 181 people were on board. Only 2 people are known to have survived. Investigators are sifting through the charred remains, trying to determine the cause of the crash. The airport control tower had issued a bird strike warning moments before the pilots declared a mayday. In the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is scheduled to undergo surgery to remove an enlarged prostate today after he was diagnosed with an infection. And here at home, SpaceX successfully launched a Falcon 9 rocket carrying 4 micro-geo satellites from Cape Canaveral in Florida early this morning. That follows a successful launch Saturday in California. And the new Congress is set to be sworn in Friday right here in Washington. In a moment, we will talk with Senator Eric Schmidt about that and much more. But first, we've got team coverage. Lucas Tomlinson in St. Croix covering President Biden, and Matt Finn in West Palm Beach, Florida, following President-elect Donald Trump. And Matt, we begin with you.
Shannon, here in West Palm Beach, the high-profile meetings are happening to hammer out critical issues and get everyone in alignment for Trump's first 100 days. But late this week, a bit of a clash arose over an immigration issue. After a few days of flare-up inside the Trump world over H-1B visas, the president-elect has settled the matter, saying he will continue to support the visas. MAGA leader Elon Musk led the charge, fiercely defending the visas, writing in part, "The reason I'm in America is because of H-1B. I will go to war on this issue." But some MAGA supporters say the H-1Bs, which historically allowed highly skilled workers into the U.S., are taking American jobs.
But I think what a lot of people in the party want to do is eliminate the fraud in this H-1B program.
Another brewing topic, the wildly popular TikTok app that has more than 150 million users in the U.S. Trump, who previously tried to ban the video app in the U.S. because it's owned by a Chinese company linked to the CCP, is now asking the U.S. Supreme Court not to shut it down. The U.S. issued a January 19th deadline for TikTok to divest from its Chinese-owned parent company or be banned here. But now Trump says he wants to make the final decision on TikTok's fate. A spokesperson telling Fox, as the incoming chief executive, President Trump is the right constitutional actor to resolve the dispute through political means. On immigration, Canadian cabinet members visited West Palm Beach on Friday for talks with Trump's camp. Trump is threatening 25% tariffs against Canada if it doesn't stem what he calls a flow of drugs and illegal migrants into our country. Trump's incoming border czar says they've already begun to secure the border.
I've talked to the foreign minister of Canada, and I've been out to Arizona talking to the sheriffs out there, so we're not waiting for January 20th.
This week, a judge ordered the Biden administration to stop auctioning off pieces of the Trump-era border wall. President-elect Trump calls that decision a major win for America. Shannon.
All right, Matt Finn in Florida. Thank you very much, Matt. We go now to Lucas Tomlinson in St. Croix, the U.S. Virgin Islands, where President Biden is on vacation. Hello, Lucas.
Hello, Shannon. And President Biden and his family have been enjoying a leisurely vacation here in St. Croix. Yesterday, the president was spotted leaving church alongside his recently pardoned son, Hunter. And President Biden spoke briefly to the press.
Should Putin take responsibility for the plane crash?
The White House has taken steps to so-called Trump-proof Biden's agenda, including setting new ambitious climate goals, something he dared his successor to scrap.
That's going to be politically costly and economically unsound for the next president to disrupt or cut.
Other parts of the Biden agenda have taken a hit. A Texas judge ruled Friday the Biden administration cannot sell unused border wall material. The incoming president called the decision a major, crucial win for America. President-elect Trump's border czar criticized the White House for selling components needed to finish the wall.
They wait 4 years just before we take control to sell a main piece of our plan to secure that border.
Biden has told aides to spend as much as possible from the 4 massive spending packages he helped push through Congress. The president also vetoed a bill that would have added 66 new federal judges, in a sign he wants to deny the Trump administration the ability to make more appointments. The Washington Post reports Biden has looked back on his time in office with some regrets. Quote, Biden has also said he should have picked someone other than Merrick Garland as Attorney General, complaining about the Justice Department's slowness under Garland in prosecuting Trump and its aggressiveness in prosecuting Biden's son Hunter. President Biden also regrets dropping out of the presidential race. That's also according to that Washington Post report, Shannon.
Okay, Lucas Tomlinson reporting from St. Croix. Lucas, thank you very much. Joining us now, Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt.
And I will have a clip of Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri, as well as Representative Ro Khanna from California, representing Silicon Valley, both talking about the H-1B visa controversy. I think you saw that they didn't cover it as extensively, and especially the conflict. They did actually show the whole Elon Musk tweet that said, fuck yourself in the face or whatever if you disagree with me, although they blurred out the F word there, but they didn't, the reporter, Matt Finn, didn't read that part, and they highlighted a different part of the tweet, but I was actually surprised they showed that whole tweet. Did you also notice that ABC made the decision on the South Korea airliner to not show the whole video where it like slams into the concrete wall and explodes, and then Fox News Sunday decided to show the whole thing with like a trigger warning? Of course, Fox News would never call it a trigger warning, but I don't know what you think about those two decisions. I actually kind of side more with Fox News, especially if you give the trigger warning. That, I mean, that's like the whole, you don't want the journalists really to edit the news for you, or I'm kind of against them editing the news because it's so graphic. If I'd rather they just give their trigger warning like they did on Fox News. But you can let me know what you think in the comments section. The rest of the news summaries are all kind of short. Well, the first one isn't even a news summary. It's at NBC News Meet the Press. Kristen Welker, this is like a pre-recorded show. In fact, all these interviews, they've shown clips. They're like meet the press, meet the moment interviews from the past year that they've used in previous Meet the Press episodes. And it's kind of like a rerun clip show so they don't have to work over the holidays or whatever. But anyway, I'll just show this is not news, but it's just the introduction of all the people they talk to who they're going to show you them talking to again over here.
Good Sunday morning. For more than 77 years, Meet the Press has had a history of shining a light on people who influence our politics from outside of Washington. From Jackie Robinson to Robert Frost, Jane Fonda to Billy Graham, Carl Sagan and Gloria Steinem. This morning, we take a look back on our special series, Meet the Moment, and the conversations we've had this year with the voices outside of our politics, shaping conversations that matter. Swimmer Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time, joined Meet the Press for a candid conversation about his battle with anxiety and depression and his advocacy for other athletes. Ruby Bridges, who at just 6 years old became a civil rights icon simply for attending her school, which was newly desegregated in 1960, spoke with us about the unfolding debate on book banning and whose stories can be told. JJ Velazquez, who was exonerated after spending 24 years in prison, wrongfully convicted for a murder he did not commit, joined veteran Dateline producer Dan Slepian for a conversation about their more than 2-decade fight to free Velazquez. Olympic gold medalist Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird marked what may be the biggest year on record for women's sports in America. And today's show co-anchor Savannah Guthrie sat down for a very special conversation about her relationship to her faith. But we begin with Michael Phelps.
So yeah, that's what Meet the Press did for its news program last Sunday. And if you're interested in seeing any of those interviews, down in the video description under sources, there's a link to the entire December 29th episode of Meet the Press, along with the sources of all the rest of the clips I'm using. And under Media Mentioned, I have brief summaries of all the clips down in the video description. So you can check that out if you're interested. If you're watching the recorded version, I even put little timestamps, though that's all going to end pretty soon, but I'll talk about that at the end of the program. I want to finish the news summaries. The last two are both really short. They're both like, it's the end of the year and what's going to come next. I think CNN State of the Union is like, Happy New Year, Trump is coming. How will Democrats react?
Hello, I'm Dana Bash in Washington, where the State of our Union is wishing you a Happy New Year. In just a few weeks, President-elect Donald Trump will take office for the second time, working with a Republican majority in Congress that has a long to-do list. Tax cuts, mass deportations, reshaping the Justice Department and FBI, and lowering consumer costs. And how will Democrats navigate their role in the minority? How much will they resist Trump? How much will they try to find common ground? Well, one of those Democrats is Andy Kim, the groundbreaking new junior senator from New Jersey. He joins me now. Senator.
And then the last news summary is Major Garrett in for Margaret Brennan on CBS News Face the Nation, just basically introducing the annual pundit panel that instead of having newsmakers, they just have pundits. And I'm actually going to show you one of those pundits, Robert Costa, talking about the tech bro versus MAGA nativist split in the Republican Party after I show you the final news summary over here.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Face the Nation. I'm Major Garrett in for Margaret Brennan. As we close out 2024, we, of course, want to look ahead to the economy, healthcare, immigration, so much more as Washington ushers in a new Congress and, importantly, a new administration. We begin with a Face the Nation tradition, our year-end Correspondents' Roundtable. Joining us, Chief Legal Correspondent Jan Crawford, Congressional Correspondent Scott McFarland, Chief Election and Campaign Correspondent Robert Costa, Political Correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns, and Senior White House and Political Correspondent Ed O'Keefe. It is great to have.
And yeah, I'm not sure if that show was pre-recorded. It didn't really have any of the breaking news, but they did cover this issue that happened over the last several days, and I'll show you Major Garrett asking Robert Costa about that and his answer as my first newsmaker clip. Though I guess they're pundits, not newsmakers, but at least they covered it, unlike NBC News Meet the Press, which I have no more clips from because they did not cover the news, and at least they're covering the news on Face the Nation, even if it's just with pundits over here.
What your perspective is on this online feud that's gone on for the last 3 or 4 days between parts of the MAGA universe over H-1B visas, which are essentially visas set aside for high-skilled laborers. Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, and nominally President-elect Trump on the side of that. Hard-right, nativist parts of the MAGA movement using expletives on social media, typically reserved for their political foes, not for those in the MAGA tent, assailing one another. What do you make of all of that?
The coalition that lifted Donald Trump back to power included Silicon Valley executives. Elon Musk, Trump Inner Circle members say, deserves a lot of credit for pouring a lot of money in the final months into the campaign. But at the end of the day, this was a campaign where so many voters at rally after rally we covered were holding up signs that said mass deportations now. The message was obvious. It was in your face. And for the idea that President-elect Trump's going to back away from his immigration position because of some whisper in his ear from a Silicon Valley billionaire, it's just not happening based on my reporting.
Of course, Trump did take the side of the tech bro billionaires in this fight, although it is a position that Trump took before, and it doesn't mean he's not also going to carry out his mass deportations. It's just they want to get the highly skilled workers for the tech bros, but the lower skilled workers, well, they're taking American jobs. That's kind of what the whole split could continue to what could keep the split continuing is the fact that there was this whole cultural aspect to what the tech bros were saying, that basically Americans are lazy, that they're not well educated, that they value the wrong things, the prom queen and the jock, not the mathlete or the valedictorian or whatever that you saw that previous quote. And that is a real split in the Republican Party that could continue. And I don't know if Trump really took a side on that. He did take a side for the H-1B visas for foreign workers to take the really good jobs, I guess. But let's see if a more moderate Republican here, this is the next clip. Jon Karl asks Representative Mike Lawler from New York, lives in kind of a swing district, and he tries to defend the split in the Republican Party over in this clip.
Let's turn to the Elon Musk versus much of the rest of the MAGA right. Where do you stand on this issue of visas for highly skilled foreign workers?
Well, look, let's look at this as a macro issue. Number one, we all agree we need to secure the border. We've had a disaster under Joe Biden, 10.5 million migrants flood into the country, billions of dollars wasted of taxpayer money in New York, for instance, on free housing, clothing, food, education, and health care for illegal immigrants. So the current system is broken. We need to secure the border. We all agree with that. That has to be priority number one. But here's a reality that we have to deal with. By the end of the century, we're projected to have a population decline. Our birth rate in the last 15 years has dropped from 2 children per woman to 1.66 per woman. So the reality is we have a long-term population decline. We have a workforce shortage of doctors, nurses, engineers, home health aides, ag workers, construction workers, hospitality workers. We need immigration. We need an immigration system that works, that is legal. And I fundamentally believe that you need to have a system that is focused on our economic needs as a country and a more merit-based immigration system than anything else. My wife is an immigrant, so I've been through this process with her. It is a fundamentally broken system. But the H-1B visa program in which you're talking about 65,000 visas plus an additional 20,000 for those with master's degrees. The fact is, that is critical to our economy. And as President Trump said, it's a program he's used over the years for his businesses. And it's something that has obviously been beneficial to our economy. The United States has been built on immigration. And it is vital.
But let me just ask you, though, because
continued growth within our economy.
But what's behind? I mean, there's an all-out war pushing back on Musk and the other tech entrepreneurs close to Trump on this issue. I mean, you heard what we said at the top. I mean, Steve Bannon is calling Trump a toddler and saying this program's a scam and it's about bringing indentured servants into work for tech companies, and the tech oligarchs are taking over the party. I mean, this is an all-out. I mean, you're expressing a view, as I just heard it, very similar to what Elon Musk has said. Why has it provoked this kind of blowback from so many other of Trump's strongest supporters?
Look, I don't speak in conspiracy theories, so you'll have to ask, Steve Bannon and others. But look, the fact is this. Okay. There's no question we want in America in which Americans are employed, in which they are able to fill the needs of our workforce, which means we need to revamp our education system, our K-12 system. We need vocational schools. We need to get kids on an earlier STEM trajectory so that they are becoming the engineers of tomorrow. But the fact is, India is producing a significant number more of engineers than we are. So it's both a function of fixing our education system and having a legal immigration system that works. Okay. I agree with my colleagues who have been very forceful on the issue of the border. We need to stop the massive influx of illegal immigration.
Right, that's a separate issue.
But you cannot have no immigration at all. It will cripple the economy long term.
All right, Mike Lawler of New York.
So yeah, that was one kind of moderate answer, and I don't know, Mike Lawler, he sounded. Was he talking from inside a fish tank? There was some sort of like weird background noise every time he was talking, but he did give sort of like the pro-business faction of the Republican Party that could continue to be in conflict with the working class, the new working class populist wing that Trump has brought in. You saw Jon Karl at one point said that Steve Bannon called Trump a toddler. It was actually Elon Musk he called a toddler for his whole like F yourself in the face post that he made about the H-1B visas, that he, Elon Musk came to the United States on an H-1B visa, and that's why he's so in favor of them. But I want to juxtapose that with these next two clips from Fox News Sunday, where this is like something that occasionally happens on Fox News. I talk often about how they're a propaganda outlet for the Republican Party, where sometimes journalism incidentally occurs. And this is kind of one of those times. They can sometimes be a good source of information for things that are going on within the Republican Party, since they're like so close to all the different Republicans. And so when there's a split in the Republican Party, sometimes they cover it more honestly, though I think, as I showed from their news summary, they didn't really cover all the details as much. They cover some more of the details and some of the more embarrassing to some Republican details, especially in the second clip where Shannon Bream's talking to a Democrat, Ro Khanna. They don't really, you would think they would ask about those embarrassing things Republicans are saying when they're talking to the Republican and ask him to answer for them, but they don't. But I'll show you first Shannon Bream talking to Eric Schmidt, the senator from Missouri. And then I actually have a question about, there's something a little bit racist about the question they asked Ro Khanna in the next clip, but I'll get to that after we watch Eric Schmidt together over here.
Okay, so let's start here with this fight over the H-1B visas, which has gotten really ugly on social media. Elon Musk obviously supports them, says the tech companies need them. He was an H-1B visa holder himself at one point. In the middle of this fight, he's referred to people within the GOP who are hateful, unrepentant racists. In another post on X, he said this: "Take a big step back and blank yourself in the face. I will go to war on this." issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend. On the other side of this, we've got longtime Trump ally Steve Bannon, who says the whole thing is a scam that's hurting American workers. And he adds this: we are going to win this. They are going to surrender. They are not going to continue to destroy American citizens and American engineering by this scam. And this is a total, let me repeat, if you didn't get it, it's a total and complete scam. Now, President Trump brought together a coalition of all kinds of groups and people and thinkers to win. How does he now manage them in the middle of a fight like this that's gone very public?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to acknowledge this is a very important debate to have, and it's happening on X right now, which is a free and open platform. It's something that I fought for when I was Attorney General of Missouri. We sued the Biden administration for their censorship regime. And so I think this is an important, thoughtful debate that's happening. But the context that we need to, I think, keep in mind here is that the American workers have been left behind by this economy. Many factory jobs have been sent overseas, and I think the abuses of the H-1B program have been evident, where you have sort of the sons and daughters of those factory workers who lost their jobs, got white-collar jobs as accountants, and then are, training their replacements, the foreign workers who are undercutting their wages. So I think the solution here, President Trump has actually articulated as 2020, is to reform that system and get rid of the abuses, make it merit-based, and make sure that we're not undercutting wages and having Americans train their foreign replacements. And also keep in mind here that the big debate here and the big issue that's coming is actually the border. And we have 15 million people here, Shannon, that are here illegally, that Joe Biden and the Democrats have let in through an open borders policy. These people who are writing white papers for liberal think tanks were writing policy for the United States of America. And now we have crime, we have fentanyl, we have a national security risk. So the first order of business, I think, for the Trump administration is the deportations that are going to begin on day one, the executive orders that are coming. I do think President Trump has talked about reforming this system, the H-1B system, but the broader issue here is mass migration that has undercut jobs, wages, and increased housing costs. So I think that's where the focus is going to be. That's what the mandate President Trump got, was to secure our southern border, and you heard Tom Homan talk about how he's going to go do that.
Okay, so I want to get to immigration more specifically, but before we leave this H-1B visa issue, the New York Post had a conversation with President Trump yesterday, and here's what they say. They say he supports immigration visas for highly skilled workers, appearing to side with Elon Musk. Quote, I have many H-1B visas on my properties. I've been a big believer in H-1B. I have used it many times. It's a great program. He's been critical of it in the past. And to be fair, the New York Times seems to question whether he was talking about these H-1B visas, because they say he's used H-2B visas and H-2A on a lot of his Trump properties, but they didn't see use of the H-1B visa. So I'm not sure that that's been clarified yet, but he's been critical about this. You talk about undercutting the American worker, and that seems to be the biggest argument against that, is that people who are brought over as foreign workers are necessarily supplanting American workers who may be qualified, may want these jobs, but the foreign workers are paid less. So I want to talk through some possible legislative changes to this, because the group that is the Federation for American Immigration has talked about things they'd want to see changed that possibly you in Congress could tackle. Not allowing the H-1B visa to be a pathway to citizenship, preventing employers from paying those foreign workers less than Americans in the same jobs, requiring proof from employers that they first sought and offered these positions to qualified Americans, and that they want tougher enforcement mechanisms, investigations, and random audits. Is that the kind of thing you think that your colleagues, whether just you as Republicans or in a bipartisan way, could get behind?
Well, I think there's been a lot of abuse, and that's what's driving, Shannon, a lot of this discussion right now, is the abuse that's happened with this, where you see qualified Americans being denied a lot of these jobs because a company can go out and hire cheaper labor from a foreign country, right? That is really the abuse. And so the reforms that President Trump put forward in 2020, which, by the way, were canceled by Joe Biden, had to do with, right now it's a lottery. There's really no merit to this. It's just a lottery. So you see companies trying to game the system, IT companies sometimes putting 30,000 applications in, hoping to get 10,000 from a random lottery. That is a system I think that needs to be reformed. President Trump's talked about that. And then also undercutting wages by bringing in somebody, under a loophole, for example, you can't have it be the same employer, but it's a consulting firm. So those are the kinds of things, and I think the starting point that President Trump articulated when he wanted to reform this very broken system back in 2020 that Joe Biden nixed. He came in under the auspices of undoing everything that was President Trump, including the 94 executive orders he issued, getting rid of Remain in Mexico, stopping the construction of the border wall, all the things that President Trump was trying to do to shore up the border and make sure we were putting American workers first. And I think you're going to continue to see that. That's the mandate that President Trump got. It's what he talked about on the campaign trail. Is we have to, and Shannon, one last point here. This is a longer-term conversation too. We have to invest in American workers. I think what people get frustrated by is they see $175 billion going to Ukraine. They see millions of dollars going to other countries to teach them about DEI. Meanwhile, our education system has completely failed in many ways, and there hasn't been a focus on the American worker. And I think that's this multi-ethnic working class party, the Republican Party is now led by President Trump. I think there's a lot of ground to be made up here in putting American workers first.
I don't know. That was a long answer that didn't really answer the question, and kind of pivoted away from what Shannon Bream asked about legislative fix to the H-1B program, this like far-right anti-immigrant group FAIR that she's quoting, all these changes, some of which are stupid, like, oh, like people who are like really qualified and skilled, we want it, and we bring them here on H-1B visas, and they're really productive members of our society, but we don't want them to have a pathway to citizenship. That's stupid. I mean, that's how Elon Musk got his citizenship. Can that really be the Trump policy? I don't know, maybe. But you see, Eric Schmidt didn't even take a position on that. He said, oh, this is all like Trump's tried to propose this and executive orders, and Biden changed things and switch over to the border, and nothing about legislation. And you see how also Shannon Bream kind of like skipped really quickly over the fact that Trump, when he was talking to the New York Times, or was it the New York Times or New York Post? I don't remember, but that he doesn't know the difference between the H-1B and the H-2B and H-2A visas, like, because the H-1B visas are for like engineers, software engineers, like highly skilled workers, some with master's degrees, as you heard Mike Lawler talking about in the previous clip. They're the H-2B and H2, they're like non-agricultural workers doing lower skilled jobs, like people who work at Mar-a-Lago and like hotels, restaurants, landscaping, that kind of thing. Well, not agricultural, but I guess landscaping isn't agricultural. But anyway, I wanted to juxtapose that with the next clip where I think Shannon Bream brings up some more of the problems in the Republican Party when talking to the Democrat, Ro Khanna. But there was also this thing that, I don't know, maybe does this seem kind of like racist? It almost seems like Shannon Bream was worried it looked racist, because she like, you'll see the question she asked Ro Khanna here. First, she starts off talking about the position of Vivek Ramaswamy, someone who's ethnically Indian. And then she talks about the response of Nikki Haley, someone who's ethnically Indian, and then asks this ethnically Indian Democrat, Ro Khanna, to like respond to that. And I'm asking you because you're from Silicon Valley, where the tech pros are from, or whatever. But I don't know, it almost seems like asking someone to respond to two other people who are ethnically similar. You can let me know what you think after we watch that clip together over here.
I got to get to you because you represent Silicon Valley on this H-1B visa issue that I talked about with Senator Schmidt. It's gotten really ugly on social media, and part of that has gotten into culture. I want to read part of what Vivek Ramaswamy posted on X in talking about this. He says a part of it comes down to the C-word, culture. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. Well, Nikki Haley, former ambassador, responded to that saying there's nothing wrong with American workers or American culture. All you have to do is look at the border and see how many want what we have. We should be investing and prioritizing in Americans, not foreign workers. What do you make of this culture argument and the need to invest more in American workers, American students, to make sure they are up to taking these jobs and there won't be as great a need to look overseas?
Well, American culture is extraordinary, and I respectfully disagree with Vivek. You know, I was a valedictorian in my high school, and they respected valedictorians and people who were exceptional at football and music. And what makes American culture extraordinary is that we celebrate the talent and genius and skills of people of diverse backgrounds. There's a reason that America leads in Nobel laureates in physics and in medicine and in chemistry. If there was some problem with the culture, we wouldn't be the world's greatest economy of 30 trillion. But one of the points that I think Elon and others are making is what makes America as exceptional is that we are a magnet for the world's talent. It's great that Elon Musk comes here. It's great that Jensen, who started NVIDIA, is doing it here and not in Taiwan. We made a mistake when we lost Morris Chang, who was an immigrant here, educated at MIT. He leaves the United States, and guess what? He starts Taiwan Semiconductors, and now we don't have semiconductors in the United States. So we want the best talent coming here while reforming the abuses of the H-1B program.
So let's talk about that, because critics will say these aren't always people with specialized genius level technology. There are people who are doing jobs that could go to Americans. Neil Patel of the Daily Caller wrote a really lengthy post. People can check it out on X. I'm just going to read part of it. He says that big tech is the only group that actually benefits here. It's not the foreign worker. It's not the American worker. He says the system keeps many of these workers in a legal limbo, often for decades. Workers tied down like this are less able to negotiate salary and benefits. That's the main reason big tech loves hiring H-1Bs. American workers who then have to compete with these foreign workers are thereby hurt by unfair labor conditions. He says the system is broken. It needs major reform. And if you don't see that, either you don't understand what's happening or you're not being truthful. So let's talk about where you think there is room for reform.
Well, Neil is largely right on the need for reform. I have a bipartisan bill, which we introduced with former Representative David Brat. Today, Paul Gosar, Frank Pallone, and I are on it. And basically, it would say you can't underpay these H-1B folks coming in. And you shouldn't have lower skilled things that could be done by American workers. You shouldn't have that kind of category in the United States. It shouldn't be for accountants or entry-level IT jobs. It should really be for exceptional talent. And we can have that balance. And I hope President Trump actually looks at that bipartisan bill that would reform this. But, you know, Senator Schmidt said that America's towns have been hollowed out, and he's absolutely right. And workers have gotten a raw deal because jobs have been offshored. Let's just be honest about this H-1B program. We're talking about 85,000 people. Sometimes it goes up to 200,000 because there are too many exemptions. But the real challenge in America is, how did we lose steel? How did we lose aluminum? How did we allow for deindustrialization? You want to bring back new jobs, you need to have the investment in reindustrialization of America in places left out. And that's what we should be talking about.
Okay, so with Elon and Vivek are not talking about this H-1B visa program and getting into these epic fights on social media, they're now about the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE.
So yeah, that was the discussion with Ro Khanna, and he at least understood more than Senator Eric Schmidt that this abuses of H-1B had to be fixed by legislation, and didn't go off topic on that. But that was the Fox News coverage, and like I said, it was pretty good for Fox News. And I have one more clip I want to show you from CNN's State of the Union. They didn't really cover this issue. Danabash did have Governor Chris Sununu on from New Hampshire and talked about the future of the Republican Party and whether Trump has totally changed it. Apparently he thinks no, they're still going to be conservatives, but I think those days are gone. But that's the final newsmaker clip I'm going to show you before the bonus Cheech and Chong, the kittens clip. I just saw Chong walk by the door over there, but they didn't come in here. I couldn't share them live, but I do have Cheech and Chong, the kittens clip to end up after the final newsmaker clip we watched together over here.
You fit in with the sort of MAGA Republican Party. You're not MAGA.
No, but I think most of the I don't like those labels. The vast majority of Republicans have galvanized around their candidate to break through this kind of establishment here in D.C. we've always been a spectrum in the party. We've had moderates, we've had fiscal conservatives and social moderates and social conservatives. It's a huge spectrum, and it's a big tent, and it will be. It will continue to be. Trump is Trump. There's no Trump light. There's no Trump 2.0 coming up. I always say that Trump is who he is, because he's built up himself in the American psyche for 40 years. I mean, really,
Has
since
he
the
permanently
80s.
changed your party?
Oh, no. No, definitely not.
You think it's going to bounce back to sort of regular conservatism and not the
I think
the
there's a lot
hardcore
more
populism?
of that hardcore regular conservatism already in there. Frankly, that traditional conservatism is already in there. He brings a different style to it, which I have a lot of issues with at times, to be sure. But fundamentally, on principle, they're still right there. The bigger DNA problem is with the Democrat Party.
So yeah, that's the final newsmaker clip. I almost got Chong to come in here, but I guess no live Cheech and Chong clips. I will be back for 3 more weeks. Next week will be January 6th. We'll find out if there's a new Speaker of the House by then, and whether they've got their act together so they can certify the Electoral College vote for Trump on January 6th. Then I'll be back January 13th, and finally January 20th. Monday, January 20th, the inauguration of Trump and Martin Luther King Day. That'll be my final episode of Monday Media Mix-Ups. I will continue doing some live streams and some edited, produced content. I found a clip I uploaded this last week. I right down underneath the video, I put a link to my 1988 appearance on the Sally Jesse Raphael show, asking an audience question about abortion to Randall Terry of Operation Rescue, who was a big anti-abortion activist back then. But I don't think I'll have any other reason to upload a video this week. Maybe the following week I'm going to upload a video about what's going to be the future of my YouTube channel for the next couple years after no more Monday Media Mix-Ups. But I did promise a bonus Cheech and Chong the Kittens clip. I had real problems getting this today. Cheech wouldn't come out from under the bed, so I kind of had to get Chong to come by the bed and interact with Cheech under the bed over in this clip. And there you go, with the loud purr of Chong to finish off the show. Thanks for joining me. I hope you appreciate the time and effort I put into picking out these clips and adding my commentary and criticism. I appreciate all of you who show up for the live show, also the recorded show viewers who leave comments, and I try to respond to those when I can. And anyway, like I said, I'll see you for the next 3 Mondays, and until I see you at the next live stream, I guess I'll be seeing all of you around the internet.